Let's get started with Reaper. We'll go over his guns, abilities, and his playstyle so you can start playing with one of the most iconic edgelords of Overwatch 2. Does anyone not know him? I mean, he's one of the poster boys of Overwatch. He's also 60 years old, so make sure to say hi to Grandpa by subscribing. Reaper has two passive abilities. The first is the damage roll passive. If he shoots anyone, they receive less healing for a little while. The second passive is the reaping. Yeah, very original, I know. Any damage that he deals heals him for a percentage of that damage dealt. Another thing to note is that he's so loud. His walking, shooting, and abilities are all so incredibly loud. Anything that you do is just a huge announcement for the enemy team that they can't miss, if they have headphones. You'd really be surprised by the amount of people playing Overwatch without headphones. He also has a lot more health than other damage heroes, but not as much as tanks. Reaper's primary fire are his Hellfire shotguns. He dual wields both of his shotguns that he fires alternatively. But that's just for visuals. He might as well just have one shotgun. But this honestly looks cooler. My inner 9-year-old is just screaming at how susky this is. The usual traits of shotguns also apply to Reaper. Short range, lots of bullets coming out per shot in a wide range, low rate of fire, and barely any ammo. These guns can hit headshots, so make sure to aim for the head whenever you can. The shotguns are pretty limited in what it can shoot, but they make up for it by the sheer damage that they can pump out. Although you wield shotguns, you don't have to just dismiss targets that are far away. Sometimes you'll be surprised how much damage you do even if you shoot far away enemies. It's usually a waste of time to shoot them at that range, but if they're low enough, it's worth a try to just try and kill them outright. If an enemy walks away with 20 health, and 3 shots from a distance deal 30 damage, that's an elimination. Totally worth it. Try to press your primary fire button every time you want to shoot. Holding down your shoot button might feel nice and cozy. I mean, you just hold down the button and the enemies die like in Spider-Man 2. But if you make it a habit early on to aim each shot before firing, you'll pump out a lot more damage because you'll just be more accurate. Other than that, keep track of your magazine. It'd be a shame if you had to reload in the middle of a fight. I usually reload anytime I get behind cover or if I'm doing something other than shooting in general. Reloading has no penalty in movement speed or ability lockout. The only downside is that you can't shoot while reloading. Oh, and don't mind that the fact that reloading in your case just means throwing your guns on the floor and grabbing new guns. Reaper's personality trait is littering. I hope yours isn't. There's a trash can right over there, you fucking slub. Reaper's ability 1 is Wraith form. He turns invulnerable, meaning that he can't take any damage, but not invisible. Enemies can still see him, but they can't interact with him. Reaper gets extra movement speed, he can pick up health packs, can get healed, he can even jump, and any negative status effects on him are cleared, given that he can activate Wraith form in the first place. Wraith form has a decently long cooldown, but not too long and not too short either in my opinion. But the cooldown only starts counting down after getting out of Wraith form. And yes, that means that Reaper can also cancel his Wraith form early whenever he wants. There's a maximum time and a very short minimum time that Reaper can be all ghostly. The downsides of using this ability is that he cannot fire his guns, nor can he use his other abilities while in it. That'd be extremely overpowered anyway, so I'm glad that's not possible. Wraith form has many uses, but you can generally use it in order to get around faster, like when you're getting out of spawn, escape bad situations, an enemy team running over you. Don't worry about it, just Wraith form out of there to safety and pray. Dodge specific abilities or damage, like Roadhog hooks. Cleanse yourself of negative status effects like Ana's anti-heal grenade. Chasing enemies when they're low. Scouting enemies in case it's too dangerous to look around a corner. And yes, that's a lot of uses. An ability this simple and versatile just has a lot of options. Try to do multiple things at the same time or at least get value with it with every use. If you go into the hero-specific settings for Reaper, you can enable Hold Ability button for Wraith form. This settings allows you to quickly get out of Wraith form by letting go of your Ability 1 button. The default for this setting is that you press once, then Reaper stays in Wraith form until you cancel with primary fire. This is especially handy if you only want to use it for specific moments. I don't recommend leaving it on default, but it's just personal preference. Reaper's ability 2 is Shadow Step. Just like Sasuke that one time where he did the thing with the 2 shurikens and the shadows, he conjures some clouds where he's going to teleport to, then teleports himself after doing a cool pose. The range is really long and is invincible for a very short amount of time for a clutch teleport. The cooldown is pretty long though, so think about when to use it, but it's not too painfully long, so don't be afraid to just experiment with it. Reaper can also start teleporting while mid-air, which reduces his falling speed while teleporting, and he can't use any abilities while teleporting, nor can he cancel it early if he already starts teleporting. There is a time window where he can be interrupted by stunts and other status effects. But one thing that you can do is pressing the ability 2 button so that you can see your teleport targets. Then, if you decide just not to teleport, you can just cancel it. Shadow Step is slow but very powerful. A teleport that gets you pretty far away in a game that emphasizes positioning with a cooldown not too bad. This gives you a couple of options. Get around the map, flanking enemies, getting high ground, and sometimes you can even do a clutch escape if you walk into a cover and teleport as fast as you can. The invulnerability window will protect you, or you'll get countered by a spear from the B. Especially the high ground component is really good with Shadow Step. There are multiple hero specific settings for this ability, but you'll just have to test that. I personally just left it on default because I didn't see any benefits from the other options, but you do you. If you aim at a valid teleport location, you'll see smoke. This smoke is not visible by enemies until you actually start teleporting. And the important part here is that for some ungodly reason, the crosshair just disappears. But if you go to your crosshair settings and change it so that you have a visible dot along with your normal crosshair, now the crosshair disappears, but the dot stays on so you can actually aim your teleport. Why would you implement it like this, Blizzard? It makes no sense. Reaper's ultimate is Death Blossom. He shoots any enemies and enemy objects automatically in a circle around him for several seconds for tons of damage. The area is quite large and his ultimate lasts for a long time. After Death Blossom, his guns are reloaded, but he can't use any other abilities, nor can he cancel Death Blossom early by himself, and his movement speed is reduced. He can be cancelled with abilities and be shot at while he's being a fidget spinner. If you've played against Reaper, you've already been murdered by this ability before. Its damage output is incredible, and it hits every enemy at nearly the same time. Doesn't this just feel incredibly overpowered? No, not really. Try it for yourself and you'll see its glaring weaknesses. The damage can easily be blocked by shields and other things that absorb damage. You yourself can be either killed or interrupted by enemy abilities, or people just run away around the corner. Other than that, getting to a good spot to actually press your win button can be hard too. Lots of beginner players just try to use their ability 1, Wraith form, to run into the whole enemy team, but that's just asking for the whole team to look at you and just shoot you the second that you come out of it. You don't survive that, usually at least. Even with the healing of your passive, the Reaping, be sneaky about it or wait out enemy abilities. If enemies can't kill or interrupt you, it doesn't matter how many of them are staring at you with their mouths wide open. Try to go in from a surprising angle, and if you need to, with your ability to Shadow Step. Surprising angles are usually dropping down from high ground, or from behind, or on the side from a fight. If you're desperate to get a kill on a single person though, feel free to just press your win button on them. One dead enemy is better than 0 dead enemies. Everyone takes the same amount of damage no matter the range, but walls will completely block the damage. And while the damage might feel amazing, don't try to one-shot a full health tank with this ability. Not even full health squishy heroes. Get them low first by shooting a little bit, or if you're coming out for a surprise hit, wait until your team makes them a bit lower. The damage is only amazing because it can hit everyone in its range at nearly the same time, not because individual targets die quickly. The healing that Reaper receives does stack per person though. If dealing damage to one person heals you for a lot of health, imagine how much healing you get by ulting 5 people at the same time. Literally immortal. Until you get Twitter cancelled, of course. You don't get healed if there's no damage being done, so be careful. Now, I see a lot of Reaper players playing like a Tracer or a Sombra, where you typically stay away from the front line and aim for the back line. And that's just one way of playing him, but you can also play him like an extra tank by staying on the front line. Similar to tanks, you can't hit targets far away that well, but most enemies that try and come near you should die relatively fast, including enemy tanks. And this is because of the combination of your passive ability, the Reaping, where you heal off the damage that you deal, and your shotguns that are designed for close range, and your ability 1, Wraith form, to quickly get out of sticky situations. You can expect to get heals as well because you're right next to the big ally who's constantly getting heals. I don't recommend trying to use Shadow Step while playing on the front lines. I see too many Reapers just try and teleport behind the enemy tank, and all it does is just isolate you. It makes you an easier target because you're all of a sudden away from a team. There are too many eyes on you, so you'll get punished really badly if you try to do anything with it. If you need to get a soft off angle, as they would call it, just try and walk there. This is honestly my default playstyle for Reaper just because it's so effective, but I would understand if you just don't like this playstyle. Now let's go to the playstyle that I think more people would enjoy, the flanking playstyle. This is where you see a vulnerable target in the backline and go for them instead of the tank. This is where your Shadow Step shines. Backline enemies are usually way too far away from the front line to just walk up to them. You'll die before taking your 4th step. Trying to use Shadow Step to teleport in front of them is also a really bad idea because you just spawn in front of them in their line of sight, and their crosshair will already be really close to your head. And the smoke that shows up from the teleport tells them that you're going to be teleporting right there. Try to teleport close to your target outside of their line of sight. The most obvious spot will be their back. Their sides, or you could get cheeky and use the map layout to your advantage. Get creative with it. What matters is that when you teleport, you can easily get to your target. But do be mindful though that the teleport and your footsteps are so loud that your enemies will instantly know what you're going to do. If the enemy backline is too far away from the front line who can protect them from you, you're in an ideal situation. If you still die 1v1, you kinda just got outplayed. But I would say keep going and learn the 1v1. In this close position, Reaper is a hero that can win pretty much every 1v1. But at least you'll know that your positioning and timing was pretty good for a flank if it was just a purely 1v1. Don't be discouraged if you die 1v1. Keep learning and be mindful to switch between playstyles as you see fit. His guns are also extremely loud, and the shots in my opinion are very recognizable if you listen for them. Anytime you start shooting, assume that anyone near you will instantly know you're there. Get the kill or get their attention and get out. Don't stick around unless you're certain that you'll survive when they try to run over you. And that's it for the beginner guide. Subscribe if it helped, and I'll see you in the next one.